It's a natural fact.
Hey guys, it's Dave. Hey, I just want to take a couple minutes. One of the things that's kind of weird right now is just being a Christian in America. I saw a quote the other day, and it said, the biggest threat to Christians in America is American Christianity. And it's something I was thinking about for a couple days, you know, just as I was working and processing it and all that stuff. And I had to agree. Seems like our biggest threat that we're facing is coming from ourselves. We live in a country we're very blessed with freedoms, economic wise, and everything else. We live so much better than most of the rest of the world. Something that is a tremendous blessing can also be a huge distraction, as well as to help us get our priorities messed up and misaligned. So here's what I'm going to do. There's 5 books that I think every American evangelical Christian should read. They're books that are going to challenge us. They challenge me. And they're books that will kind of open our eyes so we can see maybe where our priorities are off, where we're in different forms of idolatry and things like that, and just we've misplaced things. A large part of Christians in America have sort of misplaced or swapped or even sort of melded and confused this idea of patriotism and spirituality, and they think that one or the other are the same, or one reflects the other. The more patriotic you are, the more spiritual you are, and things like that. But anyways, I'm just going to point out these 5 books. They're challenging books, I believe, and I believe that every Christian in America, especially evangelical Christians, my people, should read. And the first one, boom, Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. It's considered a classic, and for good reason. You've probably read it. It's probably time to reread it. A lot of people quote from it. A lot of pastors quote things from it. Lewis's trilemma, very famous in here: Jesus Christ, Lord, Liar, Lunatic. What I like about this book, when it comes to apologetics, which is simply defending the Christian faith, most of apologetics these days, there's the kind that's doctrinally, which is where they challenge the cults and like going to say Christianity and versus Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons and things like that. And then there's the kind where they're defending the Christian faith against things like atheism, secular humanism, and things like that. Most of those books and the apologists going around today and stuff, they're very fact-based, and they're good. There's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of good ones. I mean, it's a tremendous time to be alive and to have evidence to support Jesus Christ, the Christian faith, the Bible. There's just tons and tons of good material out there. But one of the things is when you get into these like sort of fact-based defense of the Christian faith and things like that, these books, you'll notice they have to regularly be updated. Right? Can't even count how many times Josh McDowell has updated or redone Evidence That Demands a Verdict. And it's because new things are brought up, new evidences are found, things like that. So the book has to be updated to remain current and relevant. Well, what's cool about this, C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity, is he tackles Christianity from more of a philosophical bent. And the thing is what we think about, you know, the questions we ponder and all that good kind of stuff. These things don't change, right? If you sign up for a philosophy class at your local college or whatever, your book syllabus is going to be filled with a bunch of titles by dead guys. Why? Because in philosophy, the mind, we all have that human experience of questioning and trying to reason out things and the big questions and letting our brain go out there. And so it's a different approach than most modern apologists take, which is why it still remains a classic. Like I said, a lot of pastors quote from it these days. A lot of people reference it these days. Something you don't hear them referencing is when C.S. Lewis talks about government in this book. Surprise, surprise. He says that if there was a government based upon Christianity, it would most likely look like a socialist government. You heard me right. I know it's become a bad word or a scare tactic in today's political environment, but anyways, I happen to agree a lot with C.S. Lewis, even in that comment. It's a good read. I challenge you to pick it up. The second book I would challenge you to read is an older one, Roland Bainton, Christian Attitudes Toward War and Peace. What's kind of cool is this book is a bit of a history book, a Christian history book on the attitudes of war and peace in Christianity and how and when these attitudes started to develop and things like that. And I found I love this book. It's a great book for an overview when you want to talk, when you're interested in the just war theory, pacifism, where these thoughts and ideas are coming from. And there's a lot of good footnotes in here that will shoot you off into other directions if you want to delve into. I think I've picked up 3 or 4 books that I've found just from the footnotes and references because they interested me. The part that he quoted, I said, man, I got to get that book. It is good. Today, evangelical Christians in America are way out there, a lot of them, when it comes to war and are defending basically just about any aggressive action our country takes. And I don't think that's very biblical, and I certainly don't think that's Christ-like. This book is a great place to start if you want to challenge your thoughts and opinions and beliefs on Christianity and our views on war and peace. He's not a Mennonite, but he does quote from and pull from a lot of Mennonite material, just for a heads up on that. The third book is pretty current, just came out maybe, I think within the last 2 years. Letters to the Church by Francis Chan. Now, here's the thing I like about Francis Chan. Francis Chan, he's not afraid to be challenged. He's not afraid to let God move him and grow him still. Here's a guy who had a huge mega church. By the world standard, it was doing great. He even has talked about how, 50% of the money his church was pulling in, that money was going back out into helping and serving people and things, putting that back into the community and helping the destitute and the poor and all that kind of stuff. Just great things going on at this mega church. He left that church. He felt called to start a home church movement. We Are Church. My wife and I, our family, we were part of the We Are Church movement. And there was a lot of good stuff in that as well. And then he was challenged again and felt moved on again. And now he's over in Asia. And, at the beginning of the year, earlier in the year, he put out a couple videos from China. And he's been pretty quiet since. I don't know what he's doing, but I love it because so many of the pastors that have been around 50 years, some of them 60, 70 years or more, they still sound the same or still teaching exactly the same or pretty close to exactly the same as when they started. Where's the growth? Where's God moving you and challenge you? It's hard for me to believe that someone stepped into ministry 40 years ago and 40 years later they're still able to preach the same message and God hasn't moved them or they haven't grown in certain areas and things like that. I do like the fact that Francis Chan seems to be willing to follow God where God calls him or he believes God's calling him, and he's very open and public about these different things that he's going through. And so I have a lot of respect. I like him. This book is really cool because this book helps us to understand some of the problems we have in church today, especially in America, from a guy with starting a church, building a mega church, doing home church. I mean, he's been in it. He's done it. He's done the whole thing. A lot of great insight, a lot of great challenges in here for those of you who are in ministry, especially those of you who are in a leadership role at your church, or even a pastor or an associate pastor of some kind. I would encourage you to pick up that book. The next one, kind of following the same thing, talking about church. This one is called Mere Churchianity. Not as popular as some of the other books. It's by a guy by the name of Michael Spencer. It came out quite a while ago. Well, I mean, like maybe, I don't remember. I could look it up real quick. About 10 years ago. Okay. This year it feels like a long time, right? This year seems to be the year it goes on forever. So everything seems like a long time ago now. But anyways, obviously, the name Mere Churchianity, playing off of Mere Christianity, C.S. Lewis book. What's cool about this guy and this story is he was in it as well. All kinds of ministry, church experience. By the time he's writing this book, he's in a big position in Christian education. I think he was principal of a Christian school or something to that effect. Anyways, about the time this book came out, he actually died of cancer. But what's cool about this book is he tries to recognize the problems that he's noticed in church, and he's offering solutions. And he's trying to get us out of this attitude of church this, church that, and bring it back to Jesus. And he tries to help us understand why those on the outside are turned off from church, why people are sick and tired of church, why we're not able to reach new people and things like that. This is kind of challenging. It's a bit challenging. It's going to, you're going to see yourself in some of these things, not in a good light. But it's good. It needs to be said. And it needs to be worked through. And the last book I recommend we all read is, I think, the toughest read, at least for me. It's Rich Christians in an Age of Hunger by Ronald Sider, right here. Rich Christians in an Age of Hunger. This book will, if you allow it to, it would challenge your everyday life and what you're doing and why you're doing it. And it's going to challenge this idea that we have of the American Christian middle class lifestyle that we all feel really comfortable and strive for. It's a challenging book. I'm going to straight up say it. I wrestle with this. I can't read a lot of this book at a time. I can read maybe a chapter at a time, and I have to put it down and pick it up at a later time because it convicts. And the thing is, he's right? The stuff that's said in this book is spot on, and we are really missing it. I remember, I was talking to my fellow pastor Tori one time, and we were talking about some passage of scriptures and stuff that were coming up and what we would be teaching on and things. And we were talking about like the rich young ruler. And just in this conversation, we would just notice the fact that any Sunday across America, when pastors teach on this passage, the rich young ruler, they're going to include some type of a disclaimer of why Jesus' instructions to him don't apply to us. This idea that we surrender all to Christ, including our comfortable middle-class lifestyle in America. Ouch. Anyways, yeah, if you want to be challenged, really challenged, you'll get defensive, but try to keep your defenses down because it's very biblical. And it will convict you. So just to recap, Rich Christians in an Age of Hunger, good read. Mere Churchianity, what's wrong with the church? Why aren't people coming to church? How can we try to fix it? Letters to the Church, all kinds of good words of wisdom and experience from a man who's been doing it. And he's seen the good, bad, and the ugly. He's seen a tremendous growth and everything in between. Christian attitudes towards war and peace. Let's challenge ourselves there. And, this question has always been interesting when you read stuff from the early church fathers, pre-Constantine era. They argued over different points as theology was developing and beliefs were being cemented and things like that. But they almost all came together and agreed on pacifism for the early church. Pretty mind-blowing compared to what we do today, where in our churches we sometimes have flags, nationalism going on in our sanctuaries, where we have days in church where we recognize soldiers, people who have gone over and killed women and children, all in the name of country, and oftentimes it's for economic and oil and things. It's just crazy. Prepare to be challenged, right? And then, of course, Mere Christianity, the C.S. Lewis classic. It's a staple. You need it in your library if you don't have it. That's it. Like I said, I just think these books are the books that would challenge us, and I think in the right way during this season that we find ourselves in here in the American Evangelical Church in 2020. That's it for me. God bless. Love you guys. I will talk to you later.